So I get asked day in and day out questions about breeding. What's the best way to breed? How should I breed these? What levels matter? How does this work? How does that work? Well, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to tell you the top 5 things you need to know about breeding to succeed. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I've already prepped most of the episode with a whole bunch of dire wolves here. And we're going to go right into the first thing you need to know about breeding. And I'm kind of going to do these in an order that makes sense so that you can breed successfully. And it might not, like the first one might not be the most important, but we'll kind of cover all of the top 5 things. And this is the order in which that I'll do them most of the time. So the first most important thing is when you breed 2 things together, they can acquire the highest stats from each parent. Now, they have a chance to also acquire the lowest stats from each parent. So when you're breeding, this is something you really need to pay attention to, especially because you can come out with really poopy dinos accidentally. So there's a 70% chance that the baby will be able to acquire the highest of each stat. So there's a 70% chance it can acquire the highest from the mother and father of this stat, and it goes through each one the second it becomes gestated. So it's not like when it hatches, this is all figured out, the math is all done the second it's gestated. And so let's see here. We can just go over the stats here real quick. We've got 1848 health here, 1144 stamina, 285 weight, and 351 melee damage. And then over here, we've got higher health with 1980 health, lower stamina, lower weights, but significantly higher melee damage. So when you're out taming, you need to, like, these are perfect tamed level 150s. When you're out taming, whatever the max level is on your server, you want to try and get dinos that are as close to max level and tame a few of them, you know? Obviously, you want to tame a male and a female, but tame a few of them because you could get really, really bad stat allocations. Like this one has really good melee damage. You could get even higher. You could get significantly higher. It's all about just the rolls on the wild stats as well as the tame stats, because once you tame them, it's going to automatically put all those levels that you get from tamed into different stats. And as you can see, we got good stamina here, but all around, this one is just kind of not great. It's really not the best. A lot of its levels got pumped into food and oxygen, which really isn't the best. But what we can do is we can make a significantly better baby out of this by breeding. So what can happen is, we'll go over here and we'll show you. This one was the first one we got, level 220, 5 levels lower than the parents. And that's because we got the higher health here, but we got the lower stamina, lower oxygen, we got high food, we got the decent weight, but we got the really crappy melee damage. So we got basically 3 really low stats. And then we got this one here, which is level 228. We got a couple more levels, but we got the low health, low stamina, low oxygen, low food, but we got the really high melee damage here and the high weight, which is better for the levels. But what ended up happening was we got these 2 here. So what the goal when you're breeding is you want to get all of the high stats onto a baby. So you can do it by just breeding these 2 together. It's going to take a while, but it can happen. But the way I like to do it is I like to get 2 babies that have the high stats that I want, and then we'll crossbreed those to actually get everything onto one. So as you can see here, we got 242 and 235. Now this 235 actually has the high health, the high stamina, the high weight, and the high melee damage. So we could have stopped here, but I decided, you know what, screw it. We'll combine these 2 together and get the food and oxygen as well. And then we got this 247 here. Now both of these are 247. Now this is where point number 2 comes in. If you're going to be breeding for stats, breed 2 dinos with the same exact stats and the same exact level. There's a very important reason for this, and everyone asks, how do I make my dinos have the exact same stats and the exact same levels? You can't tame that in the wild. It just doesn't happen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just explained to you how you do that. So point number 2 is when you're breeding for stats and super dinos, you want to breed with the same 2 dinos with the same stats. And that means you're going to be breeding a brother and sister together, so there's going to be some incest involved. I'm sorry, it's just the way ARK works. ARK loves incest. It's just how it works. So what we've done is we've bred these 2 together, and we've got the exact 2 babies. Now you can do this obviously by breeding these two together and hoping you get two of these 247s over here. Or you could get one of the 247s and then breed it back to one of the parents to get another one. You don't have to actually do this second generation breeding that I did, but it's just the way I like to do it because I know the babies are going to pop out properly. Now, the reason you want to breed two of the same level dinos when you're actually breeding for stats or really any mutation is because the initial mutation will always pop out 2 levels higher than the dinos that you get. So, like this one. This is a mutation that we got. It's poop green. I hope you guys enjoy it. Now, every mutation comes out with 2 levels because technically every time you get a mutation, it is both stat and color. Now, that being said, you could get a mutation and neither the color or the stat will show up. There's a whole process on how the stats show up, and you could literally, when the second is gestated, it could choose to take the parent stats over the mutated stats, and it can choose to take the parent's color over the mutated color, and it becomes a recessive trait that can pop up later on down the line. So, let's see here. I don't see any mutated stats here. So we got a passive mutation stat. We might have gotten more. I don't think torpidity mutates. I think about it. No, we got a torpor mutation is what we got. Welcome. See, so we got a 146 increase to our torpidity. Fan-diddly-tastic. And then we got the color. So this one actually showed up. And it shows up as 1 mutation back here, but you get 2 levels per mutation. Now, you can also get 2 mutations. You can get, at max, 2 mutations from the parents. So you can actually end up with a baby at level 251 naturally. Now, when you get the mutation, the initial mutation is the only time that it will always show the 2 levels. So if you bred this one back to here, this baby could pop out with the color and the levels won't show up. But if it pops out with the increased stats, then the levels will show up. So you can actually pass on the colors without gaining the levels, but it will pop out with the levels if it has the stat increases. It's a little complicated, I know, but it's just the way it works. And it just makes it super easy to tell when you get your mutated stats and the babies that you want to save when you're breeding with 2 parents with the same stats. Because we know the second this pops out, it's mutated, it's got stats, and then every time we breed for stats going further from here, it's always going to increase by 2 levels, so we can easily tell when we're getting the stats carried over or when we're getting new mutations. It's just a really good way to do it, and I go more in depth into that in an episode I'll put into the cards, which is how to breed super dinos. So if you guys are interested in breeding super dinos, check out that video, but we'll go ahead and go into the next point. Levels don't matter. Now, that being said, base levels do matter. And what I mean by base levels is this is a base level. This is what it popped out of its parents as. And then this is this base tamed level. You guys always ask in videos, why do you not level up your dinos? I'm going to lose my mind. You're not leveling up your dinos. It's because I'm going to breed those. And what happens is, when you level up your dinos, you don't know what stats were the vanilla stats. You have no idea what your babies are going to pop out as or what you're going to be trying to go for stats. And I'll show you exactly what I mean here in just a second. But basically, I never level the dinos that I'm not going to be using or that I'm going to be using for breeding. So these 2 max level dinos, I'm not going to use those because they're not imprinted and they're not going to be good. So there's no real reason to use them. I'm not going to level them up because I'm going to be using them as a breeding pair. Now these I'm not going to level up because I still am trying to just breed the stats over. Now these, I'll probably use these because they would be imprinted and all that stuff. But anyways, I'll show you, if you guys don't believe me, that stats and imprinting does not matter. So, it's actually really 2 points in one. That imprinting, do not imprint things that you're not going to use because you're just wasting resources. And don't bother trying to level things up for breeding because it doesn't matter. And I'll show you guys exactly what I mean. We're going to breed these 2 dire wolves together. And actually, these aren't the right ones. Wait, what? What even is life? Okay, yeah, this is wrong. I lost it. Oh, no! Disable wandering. Oh, my God. I done messed everything up. I borked everything. All right, these are the ones that I leveled up. So we're going to breed these 2 together. And you're going to see that the These are also base level 247s, and when we hitch these, for you non-believers out there that think that leveling up your dinos or imprinting them is going to matter, it's not. Because these are both imprinted, and they're both leveled up, and the babies will still pop out at level 247 with their base level stats. Now, the way this works is when you breed, the only levels that matter, or the only stats that get passed down, are the base tamed stats. So these are all of our base tamed stats. We haven't pumped any levels into them. And the base born stats. So these level 247s here, this is the only stats you can pass on. Even if you imprint it, it doesn't matter. It's the second that baby pops out, those are the only stats it can pass on. So I hope that makes sense, and I'll prove it to you guys here in a second. I'll also prove it with our imprinted dinos that are right here. So we'll hitch these guys up too. And for you, I'm just doing this for you non-believers because I know a couple of you have mentioned it in my previous videos, and I just want to prove it to you now that it doesn't matter. Don't waste your time if you're going to be breeding them. And we'll be back. Rule number 2.5. Don't do super high breeding rates and then call customer service and sit on the phone for 2 hours and leave your stuff breeding because they go everywhere. Anyways, well, oh my god, there's dire wolves all the way down there. So yeah, rule 2.5, don't do this. Oh my god. Anyways, so point made right here, level 247, all the same stats. Now you guys know I'm not lying. Oh my god, there's just dinos everywhere. This is such a big disaster. So anyways, 5.5 rules to follow for breeding. Oh my god. So yeah, you guys can see that they're all level 247. There's no increased stats or anything, and that's just how it is. Now that goes for both the things that are leveled up and the imprinted dinos. Now, I do need to take care of this, so we'll be back. And I'm sorry, that was rule 3.5, not 2.5. Don't do dino explosions. But as you guys saw, that the levels don't matter. Now, that I'm not saying you can't breed things that are leveled up. You can absolutely do that. But if you want to set yourself up for the best success, either one, if you want to level the dinos, like if you want to level these or level these to be able to use them, just jot down the base levels first, so that way you know exactly what's going on, and when you get a mutation, you know what you're doing. So technically, rule number 3 is levels don't matter for breeding, so don't waste your time leveling them up if you don't have to. You absolutely can, but if you're gonna level up your dinos, just jot down their actual base stats, so that way when you're breeding them, you can easily see, you know, when you get a stat mutation, or when you're crossbreeding and you're trying to get the max stats on each side. So hopefully I explained that well enough. I do go more in depth into that video that I explained before, but I'm just trying to make an easy video for, the best rules to follow when breeding. Now, we're going into the next part. Imprinting is very, very important. Now, there's 2 things you need to know about when imprinting, and that is when you're in a tribe, there's a couple things that you need to pay attention to. So we can, is this one wandering still? No, okay, back. Unhitch dino and disable wandering. Okay, we're only going to unhitch this one. Now, when you imprint a dino, all right, so we had a little bit of an issue where we lost some things here when we were cleaning up the big mess. And but anyways, when you actually imprint, the first thing that you'll notice is just from claiming the baby, imprinting on it as a baby, it belongs to you now, and you get this rider bonus on the top right corner. You can see the icon up there. And on single player, for some reason, it's broken. It's not showing my imprinting bonus as well as the damage and resistance, which this can be turned off on some servers, so it's not always going to be on. But most servers don't turn this off. It's a vanilla feature of the game. Those of you playing on official all have this, and it's only dedicated servers that can actually turn this off. But we do have 100% imprinting, but that doesn't really matter for what I'm trying to explain right now. But you do get a 20% damage increase and a 20% damage resistance when the rider that imprinted on the baby is actually riding the baby. So this buff, if you're in a big tribe and you claimed this baby, no other rider will get this buff when they're using your mount that you imprinted on. So that's very important. This isn't a buff that everyone can have. It's only to those that imprinted it on as a baby. So I claim this one, I get the buff, the 20% damage increase and the 20% damage resistance when riding it. So that's the first benefit to imprinting. Now this is why, that right there is the main reason why I never use my originally tamed dinos, because they're one, weaker, and they take more damage and stand a better chance of dying. Now, the second bonus is we get a drastic increase in stats depending on the server that you're on. So let's see here. Are these guys imprinted? I don't think they are. So these guys have no imprinting, but we put levels into them. Do I have one that's not imprinted? All right, so I lost some of my examples when we had to clean up the big disaster, but we can go over here, and this one does have the imprinting stuff. So when you ride this, you'll see that we get this this rider boost on the top right corner. Now on my single player, it's not showing my imprinting status as well as the damage boost, but this is a vanilla part of the game. All players on official servers and most servers, unless it's been turned off by the owner of the server, will get this this boost when you're imprinted. Now this boost gives you 20% damage increase and 20% resistance when the rider that has imprinted on it is riding it, or when the person that imprinted on it is riding it. And that only goes to the person who claimed it as a baby. So if you're in a large tribe, anyone who rides this other than you, the person who claimed this thing as a baby, will not get the buff. So you will be the only person to get the 20% more damage and the 20% resistances right off the bat, just for claiming a baby from the parents. So right there, right off the bat, imprinting on it is a huge bonus because you get 20% increased damage and 20% resistance, which is why I never use my initial two tames, because they're, one, not as strong, and two, they're going to die a lot easier. And then three, they don't have all the high stats. So when you breed properly, there's so many different benefits, and it's just a huge, huge increase. Without even getting the 100% imprinting, you're already getting just 20% increase to most of your stats. So when you breed properly, you breed these two together, and then you get all of their high stats into a baby, and then you imprint it, it is a huge bonus. Now, before I show you guys exactly how much of a bonus it is, there are a couple of things that you need to make sure to do when you're going to be imprinting your dinos. You need to make sure that you've got all the things required to imprint. Now, when they're babies, they'll ask for a couple different things. They'll ask for either a cuddle, which is what you hope for, or a walk, which is also good, but sometimes takes a while. So that's for a cuddle or a walk, or kibble. Now, each map, or basically Vanilla ARK, Aberration, and Scorched Earth, all have their own kibble sets. I'll leave a link in the description to the wiki. So if you guys want to make sure to get 100% imprinting, which will show you the benefit of that here right now, just make sure you have all those kibbles ready for when you start breeding. Otherwise, you can get, like 50%, 10%, or 20%, or you could even get 100% imprinting quality on just cuddles and walks if you get super lucky. But anyways, we can go ahead and show you here. That's not it. I need one that does not have levels imprinting on it. Okay, so this one doesn't have imprinting on it. It's got 1980 health, 1144 stamina, weight at 285, and 452.3% melee damage. Now, we've imprinted on this one 100%. We've got 2376.3, stamina at 1144, which stamina does not go up when you increase. So that's the one stat that doesn't go up. Well, stamina, oxygen, and food don't go up from imprinting. And I don't think weight does either. Or does it? Yeah, weight does, because we're at 342.7. And then melee damage is at 537.3. So a huge increase in melee damage already. And we've got an increase in movement speed by 20%. So a major increase from getting 100% imprinting. It's very, very important that you try and do that. Let's see here. And we'll show you just how much, just from proper breeding, from the originally tamed parents to an imprinted baby down the line. Now, this is a baby that you could get straight from these parents, but I just do line breeding because it's just a little bit easier. So we'll show you the damage from one of these first. I think I need to get some dodos in as an example. All right, we've got some dodos in as an example. And we'll show you real quick that this is a base tamed one, just a wild tame. And it's doing 103. Oh, you know what? We've actually got the pack boost. So it'll do even less damage once we get rid of our little, not pack boost, but our in love boost. There we go. So it's doing 77 damage. 77 damage. Which is crazy. Now we'll go ahead and get our imprinted one that we've bred for stats and imprinting. And we'll get rid of our little love boost. There we go. And we gotta get rid of the pack boost too. Hold on. This is now officially our strongest dino. So we'll get the pack boost. Please go away so I can show everybody what I'm trying to... Thank you, game. Alright. And now we're doing 230 damage. Just from proper breeding and imprinting. Huge boost. Absolutely huge boost. And that'll go up even more once the game... Once you have that 20% damage increase... which is not working on single player. I promise you guys it does work. I don't know why. You see it on all my other videos. I never really play on single player. I don't know why it's not showing up and not working. I made sure it's turned on single player, but it's not. But anyways, very important to imprint. Extremely important. Now, the fifth most important and overlooked part of breeding. Mutations. The actual mutations themselves. So many people ask, how do you tell if I've got a mutation? How do I cross mutations? I've got tons of videos on it, but we'll cover it real quick here. Now, there's a lot of things that go into mutations, and I go very in-depth into it in a lot of videos. I'll put all of those in the cards so you guys can have more in-depth explanations into this if you so desire. But the random mutations are here. Now, you have your patrilineal and your matrilineal side, so your male and female mutation sides, and you get up to 20 on each side. Now, that being said, you can surpass these. Like, I've seen dinos that have like 1,000 out of 20 mutations on each side. That is bad. It's not good. Well, I mean, it's good. It can be good if it's done properly, but most of the time, the way that people are doing it is very, very bad. Now, once you fill up these mutations, 20 on 20 on each side, and if you're breeding with another dino that has, 20 or 20 or higher than, say like 80 and 40 out of 20 on each side. So basically, if you're breeding two dinos together that have both of these sides already maxed out, the baby can no longer get new mutations. It can acquire the mutations from the parents. So if we bred, say this one had 20 out of 20 on each side, and we bred it with something out of 80 on each side, the baby can theoretically acquire those stats that it doesn't have from the other one, but it can't acquire anything new. So you can't get new color mutations, and you can't get new stat mutations. Now, people argue this all the time, saying, I've gotten new mutations out of this, but no, you're probably, one, bad at math, or two, you're acquiring a mutation that was passive on another dino in the past somewhere. So maybe you're getting a color that didn't show up before, and that would be because it was a passive color that just didn't get shown on a previous dino. Or if you're getting a new stat, that's because it was one of the passive stats, which we kind of mentioned earlier. You can have a dino with mutations on it that doesn't have a color or a stat mutation. It happens. And that just means it's passive in the line, and it can show up later. Now, there's a way you can avoid this, or you can fix a dino that you've screwed up on breeding. Now, say you have a dino here that you want to start breeding for new mutations again, and it's got like, I don't know, let's go crazy. Let's got 1,000 out of 20 over here, and it's got like 840 out of 20 over here. You can fix this dino. You can't fix this dino, but you can fix the baby by breeding this dino here, this theoretical dino, back to your original parents. And that's why I always keep these as, what's the word for it? As a, I don't know what the word for it is right now. But basically, these have no mutations on them. So you can breed this dino back to reset one of the lines. So what we can do is we can breed this one back. And since this is a female, and we breed this to, say, the male here that has 0 out of 0 mutations, you can fix your dino because the baby that pops out will have all of its mutations crossed onto the female side, the matrilineal side, and the patrilineal side will be reset to 0 out of 20. And that means you can always mutate one side. So if you get a female that pops out of here, it'll have female at like, I don't know, almost 2,000 mutations, and the patrilineal side will be at 0 mutations, which means you can mutate the father's side and get new mutations still. Now, I go way more in depth into this in other episodes. I know it's probably a little confusing and it's a lot to take in, But it's very important that you guys know this and to not max out your dinos. But now that you know this, you'll never max out your dinos because you know to breed back this dino back to a parent with a 0 and 0 mutation, so you can continue mutating it just to breed super crazy insane dinos. So my thing is, never breed mutations into each other unless you're trying to stack the mutations. And then that baby, once you successfully stack the mutation, whether you're breeding for stats or color, always breed that baby back to a parent with 0 stats or 0 mutations, so that way you don't ruin the line and you're always able to get new mutations. Now, I do go more in depth into that. I'll leave the card up right now if you guys want to check it out. But those are the top 5 things you need to know about breeding. These are the most important, and if you follow these, you're going to be a super breeder. You're gonna make everyone on your server jealous. Everyone's gonna be trying to buy dinos from you. You're gonna make some amazing things. Check out my other videos about breeding if you want a more in-depth view into all of this process. And I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to smash that like button. And as always, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.